I'm assuming our sound's going to be okay this time. I see the sound meter, but got to make sure just make sure we don't mess up.
Yeah.
I think
And
we're
what you have
live.
to do.
So I think we're live now. See if you can check it out. Let's see.
Hmm. My computer's just being a little slow here. Just give me a
No
minute.
problem.
I'll check the audio there.
Yeah, no problem. Hmm.
Gotta say something to test the audio there.
Uh,
Blah 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 blah
Testing.
blah blah
Bada
blah.
bada bada. Ha ha. Ho ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, it works.
All right, we settled that business. And you have a nifty mug there.
Yep. I'd rather be reading.
I see. Partially obscured by the pattern. There we go.
There you go.
The pattern.
Yep.
All right,
Wheel
man.
waves as the wheel wills.
So I guess this is our time to try to recover from the disaster of last week, going a whole 3 hours without sound.
Yeah.
Disaster. There's a couple of things I can do now to make sure. On the recording software, there's a sound monitor that lets me know that there's sound output, but it doesn't let me know if there's any other weird interference, though. So, still got to check, but at least it'll tell me if we have sound or not. Just doesn't tell me the quality of sound.
Okay.
So, we're not going to be able to fit all of that discussion into what we're going to do right now. We're just going to lightly touch over the movie. I know it was a deep dive, but that will be lost to history, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But Logan, what are your thoughts on Logan?
Well, I thought like we were talking about before, it's definitely my favorite X-Men movie, and I think I was kind of somewhat agreeing with you, but not completely that I'm not sure whether it's my favorite Marvel movie or Deadpool is. It's between that and Deadpool. I like the Deadpool because of the comedy so much. That's why it stacks up so close to Logan in my mind. But Logan is so dark and gritty and realistic and like awesome and bloody and all sorts of awesome things that it's definitely like we were talking about before. It's definitely like even just this good standalone movie. You don't even necessarily need to see any of the other X-Men movies to enjoy it. And we were talking too about how it's kind of like a Western too. And the like spoiler alert, the hero dies at the end and he's called in to be the hero even though he really doesn't want to be and he just hates life and there's all sorts of cool science fiction stuff in there and cool stuff going on with character development, more so than other X-Men movies even. And yeah, it's just an awesome movie overall, man.
Yeah, I think one of the things that makes this movie stand out so much is when you prop it up against any of the other Marvel movies, the tone is so dramatically different in this movie than any of the others. It's basically what would happen if you took, um, you know, I would consider the other movies lighthearted. Like, just think of any random Marvel movie, like any of the other X-Men movies, any of the MCU movies. They are not deep, heavy, or psychological
Yeah.
in
And
any
none of
sense of
them
the
are
word.
like, other than Deadpool, none of them are R rated too. They're all PG-13, I think.
Yeah, so that's the one thing it has going for it. I would call it the grim, dark film of the MCU. I
Definitely.
think it's probably one of the darkest movies in the series because it seems like nothing that the heroes do contribute to the well-being of society. And we kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
show that they are completely flawed and they're so flawed that they cause like the death of innocence, so to speak. Because one of the scenes that I think really defines that is when they go to the farm and they know they're being hunted. So why stop off and endanger this family? And it was kind of because Charles Xavier wanted to experience what it was like again to be in like a familial environment.
Hmm.
But what ends up happening is like the entire family basically gets killed off, right?
Yep.
So it's such a dark thing. And then we find out that Charles had committed some type of massacre as well. So it's a really dark movie,
Yeah. Definitely.
especially since you have like this 11-year-old kid like beheading people and
Yeah.
and disemboweling people. It's some pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was extremely well acted. Um, Patrick Stewart did an amazing job. Hugh
Definitely.
Jackman did an amazing job. The girl, I completely forget her name. I think it's Daphne something.
Yeah, I forget the actor's
Um,
name.
yeah, she's actually British, which is pretty interesting. Yeah, I don't know
Oh,
if you knew
okay.
that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. You would know if you ever saw the Dark Materials, like, oh, that's the same girl. Yeah,
Oh,
except
yeah,
she's
I remember you
British.
told me. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's a very good movie. I guess some people say like the villains are a little weak, but it's to me it's not. It's like the journey is the part of the movie that makes it special, not necessarily the villains. I wouldn't call. Actually, I wouldn't say the villains were that weak at all because every time Wolverine went up against fake Wolverine, he got his ass kicked pretty much. Like he never did well against fake Wolverine. There always
Yeah.
had to be some intervention to save his ass. And so I would say fake Wolverine's probably the only good villain. The
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
villains are just kind
Because
of,
he's like sort of like Wolverine at the prime of his powers, and he can heal. And Wolverine, the real Wolverine, of course, as we know in this movie, he's being poisoned by the adamantium in his skeleton, and it's slowly killing him, and it's affected his ability to heal. So he can't. He's healing more slowly, and he's slowly dying too.
yeah, he's aging. His powers don't work as good as they used to. It's uh, it's not a good situation for him, and he's definitely we see the toll that it's taken on him throughout the whole movie. He gets caught in some coughing fits. None of the wounds really heal completely. He's
Yeah,
able to get drunk, so that's one of the things too. Before this deterioration of his ability, a Wolverine could not take drugs. He couldn't get drunk, like poison. He couldn't be poisoned. None of those things would have an effect on him at all. And I do know during this movie, we see him go to a bar and he goes drinking because um, the alcohol can actually affect him now.
right, right. I forgot about that. That you couldn't get drunk before.
Yeah. So I think one of the other points I made too in our previous discussion was his situation reminded me a lot about the situation that Harry Dresden falls upon.
Which
That
one?
he finds out that he has a daughter,
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. That's like the one
and
of the biggest themes of the best book in the series so far to me, Changes, right?
yeah, so he finds out that he has a daughter, and by the end of the movie, he kind of takes a parental role in that he feels the need to protect them, and it's not just a business relationship. Because in the very beginning, what was established is, hey, we'll give you $20,000 and you need to escort this kid to Canada or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it ends up not being about the money at all by the end of the movie. He forms some type of kinship with the girl that he wants to protect her
Yeah.
um, and the other kids. So it's a good send off for the character. One of my favorites, I would have to say, my favorite MCU movie. Like, I love Deadpool, but this movie was very hard hitting for me. It had a lot of heartstring pulling that
Yeah.
none of the other movies really had for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
Like,
Yeah. Like this is a like I would give this movie 5 stars. I would give most other Marvel movies like I don't know 3 stars, and depending on the movie, 2 stars or something like that. Um,
mhm.
but and maybe some of them 4 stars, and the other X-Men movies, like we were talking about, this is way better than the other X-Men movies in my opinion. It's
Yeah, none of the other X-Men movies hold a candle to this.
yeah,
Um, none of none of the original ones, none of the first class ones, and none of the ones after that, which would be like Future Perfect. And Future Perfect was okay. I didn't think it was a bad movie.
you
The
mean
Apocalypse,
Future Past,
yeah, Future Past. I'm sorry.
right?
Um, the Dark Phoenix movie was not very good. I don't know if you've
I
seen them.
still haven't seen that one. I don't those
Uh,
prequels I don't think are as good as the other X-Men movies.
you mean like the originals? With as I think they all have
No,
Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
I mean like
The
First
First
Class and
Class.
yeah, and Apocalypse.
Yeah, the only thing about First Class is what's his name? Michael Fassbender. That's basically the only thing about the good thing about First Class is that they happen to get this great actor to play
Magneto.
Magneto.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
like
as
how I like how Days of Future Past brings together the characters from the original trilogy and the characters in the prequel too.
yeah, you'll have I know Wolverine shows up, and you do have the that whole time travel mix up thing that happens, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, the
Yeah,
Logan,
and
it's
the well, like, one thing we were talking about before too is that the great thing about Logan is that like one of the awesome gritty aspects of it is that at the end of Future Past, everything pretty much ends up being okay in this dystopian future. They fix the dystopian future, um,
mhm.
and basically the end of that movie creates a loop with all of the movies where the time of the movies is a complete circle, and then this takes place after that. And guess what? All the X-Men are dead. All the mutants are being hunted. A lot of them has been exterminated. Yeah, everything does not end up okay.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's a very minimalist movie as well.
Hmm.
I don't know what the budget was for this film, but it doesn't seem there was a huge amount of special effects like we're used to when it comes to superhero movies. They're very minimalist. So even a lot of the scenes where they're fighting, it's mostly what guns and claws, right? We don't have anyone shooting laser beams out of their eyes or
Yep.
there's a little bit of it towards the end of the movie, but it's just a very small amount where
It's
the
kind
other
of like
kids have their powers.
it's kind of like First Law a little bit in that way, right? Like just mostly combat, like in that it's mostly combat just with like standard weapons like swords and whatnot. I mean, there are people who have magic powers, but not very much.
Yeah, exactly. It's yeah, they try to minimalize the fantastic elements of the MCU and try to be more real and gritty with it,
Yeah.
um, which I thought was really interesting. It's not like the daring superhero type movie that you're used to. It's almost like Logan isn't really a hero at all until almost the absolute end of the movie.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because throughout most of the movie, he just acts like as a bodyguard for hire, and a lot of times doesn't even think that what they're doing is worthwhile and
Yeah, and
tries to convince.
he's always trying to leave the kid, and he really doesn't really doesn't want to have anything to do with her.
Yeah, exactly. So I know we skipped out on a bunch of other things that we discussed. That's fine. But if you guys wanted to know our ratings for this movie, I basically gave it 5 stars. I think it's the top of its genre. It's probably my favorite Marvel superhero movie so far. But what were your ratings for this, Andrew?
Yeah, I'd give it 5 stars too, for sure. Like I was saying, I think it's hard for me to decide between this one and Deadpool for my favorite Marvel movies. But I give both of them 5 stars for sure. So the ratings are definitely similar.
Well, when you say Deadpool, you're talking about the first one or the second one?
Yeah, I think I like the first Deadpool a little bit more than the second one.
Okay, okay. Yeah. So I guess we can go into the topic of this evening, which is a book that we're going to discuss called True or False,
Hmm.
a CIA analyst guide to spotting fake news. I believe that's the full title, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken. Um, so I think the first thing we really got to tackle first is what is fake news?
Hmm. Well, it's basically false information that's spread widely in some fashion. And we know from the going into the history of fake news in this book, which you and I were talking about, is I think the most interesting part, about all the it goes into all the different ways that fake news was spread and how long this has been happening and how it's a pretty standard thing, like it's not a new thing.
Hmm. Yeah, it is. Goes back ages and ages. But one thing that the author does state in the very beginning, at least, because fake news, depending on who you talk to, is different to, you know, different people.
Hmm.
But when we're talking about fake news in this context, we're not talking about news that's unfavorable to a specific candidate. We're
Although
talking,
there is, I think there, I don't remember whether this is, I think this is in this book too. I was gonna say I'm not sure whether this is in this or another book, but I think it's in this too, about how, you can go back to like the start of America as a country, and this happened in other countries as well. People would print pamphlets and spread propaganda and misinformation about their political rivals.
yes. So, yeah, so that's definitely part of it. But what I'm saying about unfavorable coverage, something can be true, but it doesn't mean that whoever it's about likes what they're saying.
Oh
So,
yeah, yeah.
so what I'm saying is, in some contexts, fake news is just information that paints someone's candidate in a bad light.
Hmm.
Um, there's a difference between that and deliberately lying
Right.
about something, which is interesting because the book does go into the origin of libel and where that started. And I believe it was France, right? There was a queen of some sort who went to exile, and she was,
Oh right. Was
yeah,
that
she was,
was that uh no, wait, I was gonna say was that Marie Antoinette, but I think it was a different Marie, and her son, the king died, and his son was supposed to be king, but she became queen regent because he was too young to rule, and
mhm,
then she didn't want to give her power away. That's a I
yeah,
don't remember other details about it other than that.
yeah. She didn't want to rest. She didn't want to give up her regency. So what ended up happening is the son finally took over. She was exiled. Um, but before that, they were basically dropping pamphlets on each other. And pamphlets were just these, what you would get instead of a newspaper is you get a pamphlet. So they'd write pamphlets, have them distributed and they're just full of like lies and rumors about each other. And this would cause reputational damage, which would, um, of course, sway the public one way or the other.
Mhm. Oh,
So,
another the pamphlet thing reminded me too. One of the most interesting just little tidbits of information that I learned from this book is that the printing press was not invented in the 1500s. I think it was during the Protestant Reformation when Martin Luther printed a thousand copies of the Bible on the Gutenberg printing press. It was actually invented in China like thousands of years ago, which, I mean, a lot of things that we think were more modern inventions, if you look into them, it turns out they were invented in China thousands of years ago.
yeah, because I think the Chinese version that she discussed it was a set type,
Right.
meaning you could print. Um, it didn't have movable type, so you would create the, I don't know what it's called, a plate, a printing plate, but you wouldn't be able to change it. So there was a lot of labor to create the plate itself, and then so they didn't have the labor required to make tomes of books. When you get the movable type, you just need to create the thing once, but you can rearrange it so that you can print different pages instead of having to create an entire plate for each page.
Right. Right.
So yeah, there were printing presses before the Gutenberg press. It just so happens that the Gutenberg press saved labor so much that they were able to produce so many more different pages than the fixed type printing press.
Right, right.
There is so much stuff in this book regarding the history of fake news. I know one of the very first things that they talk about is how Jack the Ripper was discussed in the media and how he, like a lot of what the media was reporting in those times, were basically used as catapults to make the media money. And a lot of it ended up being untrue.
Mm-hmm.
And it even cost some people reputational damage. I know there was like a Jewish butcher that was accused of being Jack the Ripper, and many other people. There were also fake letters that the media would write to themselves and
Mm-hmm.
print, say that they were from Jack the
Yeah,
Ripper.
yeah, yeah.
And
Some of that reminded me of this documentary series that I've been watching on Netflix called The Ripper, which at first when I was about to watch it, I thought it was about Jack the Ripper, but it's actually about this serial killer in the UK in the late 70s and early 80s who sort of became modeled by the media and by himself as kind of a modern day Jack the Ripper in a way. There were a lot of similarities, and the police, they got what they thought was this big break, but it wasn't really evidence. It was an audio confession slash taunting thing. So they followed. They were looking for a guy with a voice that sounded like that. So it turns out that they interviewed the guy who was the real Ripper 9 times, and still he was not even within the list of the top 40 suspects. So they went on a wild goose chase for years and allowed him to kill like 4 more women in the meantime because they were going off of misinformation and rumors, and they weren't following the evidence enough.
yeah, there was so much misinformation created that it allowed Jack the Ripper to continue on and never be caught, basically.
Yeah,
So it's the media's own fault and greed for selling copies of the paper.
yeah.
And a lot of this book does show that the media is fucking greedy, and they will cause societal problems because they want that money. They want those
Hmm.
greenbacks or whatever color money is in Canada or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. It's
What color
different
is
over
your
here.
dollar?
Well, we did a dollar is a loonie here, a coin. We don't have $1 bills.
You don't have $1 bills?
No, there.
So if you have
It's a
10
golden
bucks, you have
coin.
to
It's a golden.
you have to
It's like a golden looking coin called a loonie.
That's weird. So you got you can a fat stack of coins. Oh, that, that's weird that you guys don't have
Yeah,
a paper dollar.
at strip clubs we throw coins at strippers.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
So you actually make it rain with coins.
yeah. Sometimes bigger bills too, but all there are always some coins also.
That's just weird. I
Yeah,
couldn't imagine going in a strip club and seeing people throwing coins at the strippers.
yeah,
That just seems wrong to me.
yeah. It's not like people try to hurt them, but they like throw them up on the stage or whatever.
I know, but that just seems funny to me.
Yeah,
Coins instead of paper money for strippers just seems odd.
it's both. People do
I,
both,
I
depending on
know,
how much
but
they want to give. Like they don't throw pennies on there or anything.
I,
Really.
Well, what color is your lowest denominator of paper money?
The lowest denomination is $5 bill, which is blue.
So do you guys, is all of your money the same color or is it different colors?
It's different colors. The
Okay.
$10 bill is brown, $20 bill is green, $50 bill is red, and I don't remember what color $100 bill is. I think that one might be brown too, or maybe purple. Is it purple? Yeah, it's purple.
So when you guys talk money, does any of your slang revolve around the color of the bills?
No, but
Like,
uh, some of them are kind of, well, maybe it's just the loony. I'm trying to think of others, but a loony is called that because it has a loon as the picture on one side of the coin.
well, that makes sense. I know there's a lot of, we talk about our bills based off of the dead presidents who are on it.
Right, right. All about the Benjamins.
Yeah, $100 bills are about
Yeah.
the, yeah, Lincoln's a five, you know, but,
I don't
oh,
even
where's,
know. I don't even know all of the people on the different dollar denominations. One of them was changed recently to a black woman because it was a white man and they wanted to change it or something. I
I
don't
think they're trying to do
remember.
something like that here. I think they want to put Harriet Tubman on one of the bills. I think they want to put her on the 20, which I don't mind. Like Andrew Jackson, cares about that guy.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't understand some of the choices for some of these bills. I think who's on the 50? It's like Grant, and then freaking Benjamin was never a president, so I don't know why he's on there.
Is you
Uh,
like Ulysses S. Grant, the Civil War general?
I think no, President Grant.
Oh, oh, okay. Okay.
I think he's on the 50, and then you got Andrew Jackson on the 20, uh, Washington on the one. Who's on the 10? Maybe Jackson's on the 10. It's either Jackson or Thomas Jefferson. I can't remember.
Hmm.
There's a $500 bill. I have no idea who's on that.
Oh, yeah. I've
Um,
never seen a $500 bill.
and on the $2 bill, it's just a picture of them signing the Declaration of Independence.
Oh, I must not have used I guess I haven't used American money in years. I forgot there even was an American $2 bill.
Well, $2 bills aren't common.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've only been in possession of like five in my life. They're not common bills. There's coins that aren't common. We do have dollar coins as well as paper dollars.
Oh, okay. Are those in
So
the $2 bills? Are they out of circulation or what?
I don't know if $2 bills are out of circulation. The dollar coins are definitely in circulation. That's a good question. I'd have to look it up. But $2 bills were not very frequent, frequently used.
Okay.
And there's 50-cent pieces. You don't get to see those a whole lot.
Oh, I didn't know those existed either.
Yeah, there were 50-cent pieces, and the dollar coins are called silver dollars for the most part.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, enough of the money talk. Where were we? Oh yeah. Yeah, there's so much different stuff that she covers. It's almost at a super lightning pace. Um, like I know she covers the War of the Worlds,
That
and
was one of my favorite parts too. That was really interesting about how um that I had no idea about how, contrary to popular belief, very few people actually literally thought that the planet was being invaded by Martians. and Orson Welles and the radio broadcaster producers, they were kind of like in on the joke a little bit. Like they mentioned at the start of the broadcast that this is a radio performance, but then people who would come in after it started didn't know that it was a radio performance, and they did a dramatic reading and exaggerated the reality of it to try to make people feel like it was more real, and they kind of like half trolled them a little bit, but it wasn't like to the extent that I certainly thought it was.
Yeah, there's definitely some trolling going on. Yeah, Orson Welles. If you ever get the chance on YouTube, look at drunk Orson Welles commercials. Those are
I didn't know those
amazing.
existed. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think in the 70s, he made like some wine commercials, and you got to see the bloopers. He was just totally loaded.
That's funny. Yeah, you can listen to the War of the Worlds broadcast on YouTube too, the original radio broadcast.
Yeah, it's worth checking out that piece of history.
Definitely.
Also, I think one of the things that they talk about too is some of the modern fake news. So we're talking about Pizzagate. Yeah, she covers Pizzagate in her book and how that came to pass.
Democrats are secret child molesters in pizza places.
Yeah, and people were showing up. So one of the things she mentions is that oftentimes these fake news stories purposely try to hit people's emotional states and get them riled up.
Yep.
And I know she gives us a little primer on how to spot these things. They're pretty easy for me to spot. Usually, whenever I read a story, I look for moralizing language.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I call it, moralizing language. Language that is trying to project some type of morals. Like, oh, this horrible congressman or these.
That almost always happens, even in real news.
Well, it tends not to happen too much in real news. You do see it sometimes. When I say real news, I'm talking about news readers. I'm not talking about talking heads or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, talking heads are going to have opinions.
Yeah.
And they're going to use moralizing language. But that's, to me, that's not news. That's just opinion.
Right.
And I think she also talks about how there was no line to divide opinion from news back in the day.
Right.
So you wouldn't know. And then she also talks about how people cannot determine, like how poorly people can determine fact from opinion.
Yeah.
I know she talked about a study where they asked questions, and it seems like 35% of the time people can't discern fact from opinion, which is a little troubling.
Yeah, no shit, man. And I thought what you were mentioning about the history there, one of the other aspects that was interesting to me about that was that it's also not a new thing for people to just report on stories, sometimes without even fact checking them or fact checking them really minimally, because if you take the time to fact check them, then other people will get the jump on you with the story and they'll break the story before you do. So you should report on the story without even fact checking it, so you can get all the attention for it before other people do. That's just not like a new online social media thing. People were doing that with newspapers.
Yeah, and also, like legitimate news stories still fall prey to not fact checking things, and they got to
Certainly.
retract.
Yeah.
Like the Covington kids story was a big one.
And then
You
people
know,
pay attention much less to the retraction than the original story, right?
yeah. So sometimes the retraction just won't reach not even nearly half as many people. Usually the retractions will reach opposition first before they reach the actual readers. But yeah, another one of the things that she talks about in the book, one of the things I found fascinating was that in the early United States history, and we're talking um, right after the Revolutionary War, how the people running for office would have these fake newspapers that they were running under pseudonyms, and they were just trashing other candidates, um, and how big of a problem that was that they're using this platform to send out misinformation. And I know this got so bad that during the Hamilton and Burr feud, that it came to a duel in which someone got killed.
Yeah, Hamilton got killed, right? I remember hearing about that in the book about Alexander Hamilton, which the play was based on, which I mean, if you like musicals, you should watch it, but that's not my thing at all. I think the book is a million times better, and but to be fair, I barely watched any of the play. It's not my thing. I think the from what little I saw of it, I thought the rap was fucking terrible, but I'm not a musical fan anyway, so.
Yeah, so it seems like throughout history, the media is always being used as a tool to gain power in some form or fashion, whether it be political or financial. As they also talk about the newspaper wars between um, Pulitzer and Hearst, right?
Hmm.
And it escalated so far that it basically they started a war in between the United States and Spain, right? Spanish American War.
Yep.
So yeah, to be even, and this is a CIA late. Well, I don't even know if she still works for them, but she. Okay, so we didn't talk about much about the author. The author is a CIA analyst, and her job is to take information and find out whether it's true or not. So basically, she's researcher. That's what she does.
Hmm.
Researches and cross references things to make sure that the information that they're getting is true or false.
Right.
She also admits that yes, the United States uses these same techniques. It's not it's not something that we are, well, at least the United States government is above reproach. They will use these same misinformation techniques against their enemies as ours against us. It's not a taboo thing, so to speak. So, what were some of the other historical um, things that you saw that you found that were pretty interesting?
Hmm. I don't remember that many more off the top of my head, actually.
Yeah, there weren't a whole lot. The only other one that I found pretty appalling was it wasn't a Latin America. Do you remember this one where there were like rumors being spread um, that there was some type of pedophiles kidnapping kids, and then two people who
Oh,
were going back to their hometown, like a dude
oh,
and his
right,
uncle.
right. They got beaten and then burned to death by a crowd because like they falsely assumed that they were child molesters. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's and it seems like man, does child molestation put people in a frenzy of action?
Yeah,
We got this, we got Pizzagate. So a mob killed two innocent people based off of some false information.
yeah.
And it just makes me wonder, like, how do people get entrapped into these things? Like, I'm not gonna name names here, but like I've seen recently has been getting really deep into these crazy conspiracies. Um, like one of the ones I saw posted recently was of accusing Joe Biden of employing body doubles.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I saw something
Yeah,
about that with Kamala Harris too.
yeah. I keep seeing these body double posts, and I'm like, are these people acting rationally? Like, really? Like, what's the point? There's like zero point to do it.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any logical sense.
Hmm.
It's like me hiring a body double to send in the bathroom and take a shit for me. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm just trying to parse this thinking. Like, how does this make sense to people? I don't know. I know there's people that think that there's like actors playing these politicians and things. I don't get it. Um, there's people that still think the pandemic's a hoax and stuff like that. I don't get it. Um, but I feel like the most recent crux, or at least escalation in 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 fake news, would have to be. Would you consider the election fraud deal an escalation of fake news?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, like the the presidential candidate who lost, despite all evidence to the contrary, kept touting these voter fraud claims and that the election was stolen. And then, of course, it led to to Trump supporters storming the Capitol with weapons, and a woman got killed, and a cop got beaten to death, and they had AK-47s and bombs on standby. And apparently, Trump and a lot of his supporters still believe that the election was stolen from him. So yeah, I'd say that's a big escalation in fake news.
Yeah, it makes me wonder because I believe this book was published, of course, before all this happened. So I'm wondering if Cindy Otis has done any interviews post January the 6th to talk about this issue in particular. Um, and I know one of our mutual friends, Eric Hunley, had her on his channel about 8 months
Oh,
ago.
right. I forgot that you
But
mentioned that to me.
yeah, this was before the January the 6th event. Um, and it's crazy because I don't know, I'm still kind of following the aftermath. It's kind of unavoidable since my local news is Washington, D.C. So whenever something happens with that case, I get to see it. But seemingly, it seems that a lot of the people who were instrumental in carrying out the attack were either white supremacists or borderline white supremacists. It's kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Um, it's nuts. I don't know if I think that probably has some type of effect on Republicans. I don't know if they're following the story and who the people actually were. Um, it's nuts, man. And I think it's
Mhm.
been over 400 people are charged.
Oh, I didn't know it was that many. Wow.
Yeah. So they're doing plea bargains. I think some of them are turning state's witness on other people. It's pretty crazy.
Wow.
when it comes to that. Yeah. So, yeah, and another notable case that she cites, and this is the one I knew about, is the Russian fake news about the HIV virus and its origin.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
Well, I knew about this one because I think the New York Times did a big feature on it, and I believe if I'm not mistaken, there may have been a Radiolab episode about it. But I had totally um, remembered all of that the Russians secretly funded a Indian newspaper, and they were feeding these crazy stories about HIV being purposely introduced into the American penal system. There's like some big holes already when I thought about it. Like they're saying, oh yeah, it's going through the gay community because there's a lot of gay people in prison. But I'm thinking when these dudes get out of prison, they're not gay. They're just gay while they're in prison.
That's like an
They-
Alex Jones type of theory. The Russians are killing
yeah,
prisoners gay.
yeah. It's like, yeah, I understand that dudes are humping each other in prison, but typically when they get out of prison, they don't stay gay. They go back into normal tendencies from what I've heard and read about.
Yeah, I've
They
heard that
call it,
too.
yeah, they call it gay for the stay. But yeah, then there's a bunch of other hoax. Like I know
Pay
she
for the
talks
stay.
about like the Russian invasion of Crimea and how there was a bunch of fake news surrounding that. And one of the most hilarious things is like, oh yeah, the Russians provided evidence that said an eyewitness saw a Ukrainian jet shoot down this plane, but and then how would you know it was a Ukrainian jet? There's just no way to know from a eyewitness on the ground spotting a jet flying thousands and thousands of feet in the air. Like, there's no way for me to know a commercial airliner flying high. I don't know which commercial airliner it is. How are they going to know what fighter jet it is?
Yeah,
Like it just it just makes no sense. Usually, a lot of the Russian stuff is typically easily debunked. It seems. But anyway, this book is just so chock full of information and chock full of historical examples. I know some of the earliest examples are. Um, I think there's this. She does also talks about history as well and how it's written. So there's this one case of a ruler, and he's having some type of military campaign, and he captures two people who are fleeing, and these two people give him false information, and that false information loses him the battle.
right.
However, since he was still the overall winner, he in history we didn't get to see that blunder.
Right.
Because the winners write history, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Even though
exactly.
I don't really find that the case because everybody writes history. So if you take a look at German history, I don't know what's in their history books. Do they totally do they talk about World War II in their history classes? I
That's a good
wonder what
question.
I gotta ask a
Well,
German.
I know I've at least heard from people that Holocaust denial is illegal in Germany and like other places in Europe, but I mean, I don't see I mean, it seems like Germany and like has become like way the opposite of the way it was under Nazi rule.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, yeah, Holocaust denial is illegal, but there's a difference between denying something or just not talking about it.
Oh yeah,
Or
of course, like
so I'm
the
wondering,
I didn't learn until my my history class in college that there was like there was in the US, there was here in Canada during World War II, we put Japanese people in internment camps because, all Japanese people be bad because World War II.
So Canada did it too?
Yeah.
So did you give them the reparations or whatever?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, over here the Japanese got reparations also. But even though when they say modern history, you can't escape that even if the victors write it, you're still going to have some other version of it
Hmm.
from those who lose. Like, just think about history as the way North Korea tells it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, their
Yeah.
version of
Yeah.
history is pretty insane. Um,
Kim Jong Il and Kim Jong Il didn't, and Kim Jong Un doesn't pee or poop. Always gets a hole in one.
yeah, that's funny. So I'm wondering what happens. Uh, does he have to secretly poop and pee?
Yeah,
Is
that's
he
a good
allowed to
question.
is he allowed to openly do this stuff in front of like North Korean officials?
That's a good question.
Who knows? And like
Maybe he
if
does it. Maybe he does, and then he just denies it. I don't know.
But yeah, there's a lot in this book. So I recommend if you want to learn about the history of misinformation campaigns. Um, and a lot of it is, when it comes to fake news, a lot of it is used to further some purpose, whether it's monetary or political. It always seems like its use is to gain power or wealth in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
So I think we could also talk about the second half of the book, which talks about employing strategies to spot fake news. For me, it's not super, what would I would say? I'm kind of already well versed in the strategies that she highlighted. We can talk about them if you like, but she does give out various resources to find out whether something is fake or even to give you clues whether something is fake. And one of the ones that seems to happen too is when you fail to read and this is my biggest pet peeve, especially online. When someone posts an article that did not read the article, right? So they post some article and they write some caption that's frothing at the mouth full of outrage. And then you go ahead and you read the article and you ask the person, did you actually read this article? Because none of what you just said is contained within the article.
Yeah.
This seems to happen a lot. I see it happen so much on social media that it's kind of heartbreaking in a way.
Yeah.
One thing that I always try to do is I never post a video or an article without having read it myself. I need to know
Yeah.
what type of content I'm putting out into the
Of
world.
course. Of course. I do that too.
Yeah, there's some people who don't. I don't know. There are some people who just read headlines too, and they just kind of forget that there's a whole story underneath that headline.
It seems like a lot of articles from online tend to be fairly short too.
Yeah, it depends. Like you can have your full out think pieces, or you can have like your short articles about events that happened. Not all articles need to be extremely long.
Yeah.
But what what a headline does is it tries to grab a juicy, sensational bit from the story so that someone will be drawn to the story.
And it could be like total misdirection or burying the lead, or if you read the article, it could actually be suggesting the opposite of the headline.
Yeah, many of the ones that I always pretty much figure out is whenever the headline ends in a question, the answer to that is typically no.
hmm
Otherwise, they wouldn't have turned it into question.
Yeah.
Do does dog food cause cancer? No, no, it does not. I
Is
already
Joe
know. But
Biden being replaced with doubles so he doesn't have to go out in public?
yeah, exactly. Because if they don't pose it as a question and it's blatantly false, they could be sued.
Yeah.
That's why it's a question.
Yep.
It's
Did
to
Russia
pass off
did
the.
Russia make Trump get elected in 2016?
Yeah, exactly. So, um, what do you remember any of the other techniques that she talked about regarding spotting fake news?
She listed a whole bunch of fact checking websites that are for different purposes. Like I don't remember the names of most of them, but there are some specifically political ones, and then there are a whole bunch of other different ones. Like one of them is Snopes, of course, and
Yeah,
I've
Snopes. I
heard that
love that
even
one.
okay, I've heard that even that one can have a little bit of a bias, but it's like impossible to not find bias. But I've found that I think you're better at fact checking stuff than I am, but I already tend to notice like a lot of pretty obvious things that people do. Like you were talking about moral language, for example. Like if you read an article or watch a video, it seems to often be the case that people are framing it in a really politically partisan way or biased way in some way that shows you their information is clearly like you should take it with a grain of salt because of where it's coming from. And she was also saying, for example, like one of the many things that you should do is look at who is the person share. I think I'm getting a bit of a feedback from your headphones there.
What
um
about now?
that's better now.
Okay.
Yeah, she was talking about how you should look into the person who's posting this article or spreading this information. Like, for example, I read a book about climate change recently, and it was like about how there's this there's this cover up operation from oil companies to sow doubt about climate change and global warming. And I tend to agree with that view. But also, if you look at the information about the author on the back of the book, it says that he works for this think tank that's like an activist group for fighting global warming, basically. So obviously, he's biased.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta even check the author. I know one of the things that she talks about, especially when you're looking at websites, make sure you take special note of the URL of the website. I know it seems to be that the internet has cracked down on a lot of these fake news sites. I don't see them posted as much as I used to. Like, I guess that's just because of the big social media companies are cracking down on a lot of these sites. Like the sites I'm talking about are like maybe the Gateway Pundit or like some of these super wacky like conspiracy sites that will usually have some type of notice when you post anything from them. I'm finding to see that I see a lot less of these sites pop up in my news feed.
Hmm.
I'm guessing that has something to do with social media's crackdown on fake news. I know there are a lot of people who do not agree. I do get that sentiment, but a lot of people are being fooled by this bullshit. it's, it's kind of ridiculous, but
Yeah,
it's almost sad that human psychology is so easily manipulated that we can make people believe ridiculous things
yeah,
and people will profit off of those ridiculous beliefs.
yeah.
Because
And
a lot
a
of
lot
these,
of
Mhm.
like kind of in relation to what you were just saying there. Another, and in relation to more to sort of like moral language that we were talking about. I think one thing that she talks about that I always notice because it's blatantly obvious is like kind of inferring someone's intentions behind their actions and inferring that there is malice behind their actions when you don't actually know that there's malice behind their actions, and
Mhm.
it could be just competent incompetence. That it always reminds me of Hanlon's razor, which I heard from mixed mental arts, which is do not attribute to malice that which can be attributed to ignorance, which makes sense
Mhm.
because most of the time it's ignorance, not malice.
Like, yeah, the majority of the time, um, it's ignorance,
Yeah.
unless you get into like psychopathic people, but that's, a very low percentage of people operate on that spectrum. But yeah, and I see that every day too, especially more with the conspiracy stuff. It's like whenever I see the conspiracy stuff kind of escalate, it's often that those who are spreading it are failing to use Hanlon's razor.
Mm-hmm.
But they believe that there's this giant cabal, coordination, crisis actors, all that other crap. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Well,
but
sorry, go ahead.
well, no, the funniest thing is like a lot of these people say that the government is incompetent at a lot of things, yet they have the ability to participate in these massive conspiracies
Yeah.
that encapsulate hundreds and hundreds of people. So it's
Yeah.
like it's
And
kind
like
of
one of the things behind conspiracy theories in particular is that it's such an attractive narrative. It pieces everything together, and every question has an answer. Whereas in reality, it's usually a hell of a lot more complex than that, and the story tends to usually be more boring. It's not like some like thriller plot from a Tom Clancy novel or something like that.
yeah, it can get quite some of these theories can get, quite ridiculous. I know the she talks about the Pizzagate and how if they said cheese pizza in any of their communications that really meant child pornography. Like, okay,
Would you like
guys.
some cheese pizza today? Yeah, I just got some cheese pizza last night. I'm gonna get some more today. You gonna make
But
that cheese
was
pizza? I'll help you make that cheese pizza.
but was if I'm not mistaken, was Pizzagate started by QAnon?
Um, I think that was before QAnon, wasn't it? How long has QAnon existed? I thought that was like a Trump thing.
Well, QAnon's whole thing was about the Democratic Party being full of like pedophile child traffickers.
Right. I guess I
And
never thought about
Pete's
the possible link between those before.
Yeah, and well, Trump was supposed to be like the savior that was going to take down all the Democratic pedophiles or whatever.
And he's a holy leader chosen by God.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. But it's so ridiculous that Harvard graduates succumbed to it. I think there was this big one of these. I was listening to this podcast where they interviewed this lady, and she is a Harvard grad, and she was totally into the QAnon stuff. I was like, yeah, I can believe that
Wow.
Harvard grads um, really like when you talk about Harvard grads. Yeah, they to me a Harvard grad isn't so much they're super smart. It's just they're really good at negotiating social situations more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Like every Harvard grad that I've heard speak has a special gift of being able to communicate their ideas very clearly and cleverly.
Right.
So,
Oh, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page for QAnon, and it looks like it did actually originate with Pizzagate.
yeah, so she does talk about Pizzagate, and I think she doesn't specifically, I don't believe she specifically talks about QAnon, but she does say that the Pizzagate conspiracy originated on 4chan, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, there's some other techniques she talks about as well. One of the other ones, basically being able to tell facts from fiction.
Fair share of taxes, or abortion is sin, or all of these clearly political beliefs.
Yeah, so I know one of the ones they examined was $15 minimum wage is instrumental in increasing, what was it, some type of an economic prosperity,
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
something like that. And that's just an opinion. It's not a fact.
Yeah.
You know, some people just don't have the ability to discern those things. It's kind of basic. At least if you're into news, at least it should be a basic thing that you should know. And I
Yeah.
think super casual, and I'm talking about headline readers, they're not going to know these things.
No.
It's it's almost a lost cause to instill these people because a headline reader is not going to listen to this audiobook
No.
or read this book. So I'm
That's a
not
good point.
sure how she's going to reach these people. Maybe this book can spread ideas to people who could talk to the headline readers.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, it's hard. It's a difficult problem that is hard to solve. And I know there's criticisms about, the big social medias, trying to stamp their foot down. And I get it. Like I know there are some independent media people who are stand-up people that aren't peddling bullshit,
Hmm.
but they are being adversely affected by this policy, it seems, throughout all social medias to kind of stamp out independent news.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a like I'm sure both you and I have heard this before from the more independent like I guess like political commentators that you and I follow on YouTube, like progressive ones like Kyle Kalinske and Jimmy Dore, and like people uh like Crystal Ball and Sager and Jetty at the Hill, one of whom is a progressive and the other of whom is a conservative, and like all those other people we follow as well, about how they're considered to be illegitimate and not not fundamental or foundational news sources, so they're not proper, so they get suppressed and downvoted and all that kind of stuff. I think though, like I understand why they're frustrated, but they're all of those channels are still gaining subscribers and whatnot. They're just gaining them more slowly. So, but
Yeah.
I see why they have a problem with that though.
Hmm. Yes, fake news and how to spot it. This
Mhm.
book will teach you how to spot it if you don't know how, if you're concerned. And it's funny too, because I imagine like a Trump supporter looking at the title of this book and like, oh shit, I want to learn how to spot some fake ass news. And then they read it, and it sounds mostly that this is a liberal leaning book. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. So I think the first paragraph is going to turn off Trump supporters because she basically tells you it's not what a, well, I don't think it's the first paragraph, but it's the first chapter at least, when she tries
Mhm.
to explain the definition of fake news. And, the Trump people will be like, oh, hell no, I'm going to listen to this shit. What the hell is this? They're calling Trump, they're saying that whatever Trump calls fake news isn't fake. Ah, yeah, hell with that. So it's,
He's the
yeah,
only one that
it's,
tells the truth.
that's exactly. So, um, I'm just wondering what's going to happen to the world now. Well, at least in the North Americas. Right now, it seems the fake news stuff is calming down a bit. I think it's because politics is boring again.
Hmm. Yeah, that
Politics,
reminds me too. Like you know how Trump, he like his ban from Facebook was recently held up, and how he was banned from Twitter for the riots in the Capitol. Of course, I thought saw some progressives actually making this point, like progressives who I'd seen being against Trump being banned from Twitter a while ago, like I was as well, and now based on at least what I've been hearing and what seems to be happening as a result of that, it seems like to me I just have sort of like a moral qualm with people being banned from social media in general, but it seems like him being banned was actually effective in a lot of ways, because it seems like you said, it made people more bored with news, and they're not like checking everything like, oh, what did Trump tweet now? Let's make news all day long about what he tweeted.
I think once Trump was out of the White House, we saw what happened. Um, After the insurrection, he didn't get banned right away. It took him a while to get banned from everything. But you could see that he was just quiet. He wasn't doing any press conferences. He only had 2 weeks to go before he was effectively out of the White House. And right now, when Trump appears on something, I totally don't care anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, you're not that relevant anymore. Like when Biden appears on something, oh, it's just going to be a boring Biden speech. I don't really need to listen
Yeah.
to this. It's the thing about Biden is he's totally predictable. We
Hmm.
know he's going to do the whole politician thing.
Yeah,
Um,
people want something. Apparently, anyway, people seem to want boringness as like a reaction to the craziness of Trump.
yeah, I think it's just a rebuke. It's just people just don't want to care about politics that much.
Yeah.
And I find it as a huge relief for me. I don't, like, I feel that my time can be occupied by other stuff that's not politically related. I just felt throughout the past like 3 or 4 years, there's just too much fucking politics, man. It's
Hmm.
way too much. There's too many stories, too much fucking Trump. It's just, I
Yeah.
was just kind of tired of it. I was like, Jesus Christ. Can you guys
Hmm.
focus on some other shit besides Trump and his ridiculousness?
Yeah.
Um, But we covered that in another video when we were talking about Michael Moore and how Trump was basically big money for media. They made so much money
Hmm.
off of him.
Yep.
And I don't know. They got him elected. Liberal media got Trump elected.
Yep.
They should cop up to it. Like your constant wall-to-wall coverage of Trump. I don't think they understand that when they go after somebody, they incite the other side to be that much more loyal
Of
to that
course.
person. And like the same shit happens to AOC. Like
Hmm.
the right goes after AOC, and then the left is like there to defend her.
Yeah.
Not all of the left.
Same with if like if I make fun of like Candace Owens or Jordan Peterson in one of my videos, then people instantly defend them. And then like on the other side of the political spectrum, when I made a stunt video of me reading a Dr. Seuss book, people got mad about that on the other side of the political spectrum too.
um, yeah, it's dumb. Like I know exactly what you mean. Um, it's criticizing people will bring out like their devoted. I think it seems like Jordan Peterson has like the most devoted followers ever.
He really
Like,
does. Like
you say anything bad about him.
I've made videos criticizing people. The ones where I criticize Jordan Peterson are the only ones that almost always get negative comments and people disagreeing with me about it.
Yeah. I don't know what's up with his followers. It's like he's secular a secular minister of some sort. Like he has that level of followers, at least like the zealotry with his followers.
He kind of is that
Makes
way in some way. Like he talks about
So,
Christianity and religion all the time and how important religion is. Like he's basically evangelizing about Christianity, like sometimes at least. And
well,
people
that's
see him
what I
as
got
like
the
a
sense.
replacement father figure too. Like, and he's always talking about responsibility and all this kind of stuff. So he appeals to a lot of young men who feel powerless and they feel like they need some direction in life. So it makes sense.
Yeah, ultimately he succumbed. Like he was not able to handle the fame, and he succumbed to it, right?
Hmm.
Um, by like, hey, he's a human being.
Of
Some human
course.
beings just don't know how to handle that stuff. He
Hmm.
was doing okay for a while, and then we, if anyone had been following JP before he became big, I know he was on some Canadian talk shows a lot.
Hmm.
And I remember looking into his past, he did one of those talk shows and he completely just talked about his depression and his the medical the like his medical regimen, like what type of drugs he takes for that. It's like,
Hmm.
well, if you mix that and a bunch of fame and all that, it's not usually a good cocktail. And
Yeah.
that's we kind of found that out.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, and he
JP.
also like when he disappeared for like a year and a half until recently, it was from getting addicted to benzodiazepines, which he was taking for depression, and then he thought he needed to get off of them, and then he almost died trying to get off of them.
Yeah, wasn't he like in a medical coma for a while?
Yeah, and he went. They tried to his family and him looked for hospitals and doctors all over the world. So he finally got some therapy and surgery, I think maybe in Russia because it was hard to find a good place for all of that.
Hmm.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's a crazy story. Just to think about how fame could do crazy stuff to people.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, he's like I think one of the effects of that fame seems to have had on Jordan Peterson is that maybe It's that he's gone more into like the self-help field. I liked his earlier stuff in his earlier career more, where he focused more on psychology and applying psychology to kind of like a variety of different religious traditions. And now he most of the time talks about Christianity and self-help, which is okay, but I just find it less interesting. And then he's gone all like he gets too extreme sometimes, and as we've talked about many times, he clearly doesn't read a lot of the philosophers who he criticizes, like Foucault and Derrida.
Yeah, it's yeah. I know you read his second book, right? You said it was better, or his third book.
Yeah, I read Beyond Order. I did like it
Did he have an
more
editor
than
this time?
I think so. But I did like Beyond Order more than 12 Rules for Life, and I'm doing a video series on each of those rules. And yeah, I think like 12 Rules for Life, I think I only liked 2 of the rules, and I didn't like 10 of them, but I liked almost half of them in this book.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's an improvement, obviously.
Yeah, but he's kind of dropped off too. I haven't seen him on any of the big podcasts, you know.
Oh,
Uh,
he's got his podcast going again, and I've seen him on some other podcasts.
oh, you have?
Yeah.
Oh, which one was notable?
Um, well, I guess hmm. No, I don't know. He talked to I guess it was mostly people he talked to on his podcast, and then I think he talked with maybe just like some of the IDW people like Brett Weinstein and people like that.
Oh, okay. I don't know, I haven't listened to Brett's podcast in forever. I think it's mostly because he's become a anti-woke grifter.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm like, man, Brett, really? I understand like the whole anti-woke stuff, but man, it just
He did a podcast recently that I didn't watch with this guy I hadn't heard of before. I forget what his name is right now, but he did a podcast with him, and I didn't know who it was, so I didn't even look into it. And then I saw that same guy's name in the book that I was reading on climate change, and it was going into detail about how he uses all these clever rhetorical tricks to be a climate change denier. So I wonder if they mentioned that in that podcast.
he was talking about rhetorical tricks for being a climate change denier. So is he a climate change
This
denier
guy,
now?
the author of the book, was explaining all of these rhetorical tricks and stuff like that that the guy who was on Brett Weinstein's podcast uses to like deny the fact that he is a climate change denier.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I still think Eric is worth listening to.
Yeah, me too.
He hasn't become an anti-woke grifter,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah, I like that he's even criticized other members of the IDW for that. And I like that the IDW, which is just this whole fucking like drama group thing. I like how they like broke up now, kind of. I don't hate them as much as other people do, but like Dave Rubin just went full fucking Trump supporter grifter, and Sam Harris publicly said he is revoking his membership to the IDW. It seems like he didn't say this in so many words, but it seemed like, according to other people who like are associated with the IDW, that he did so because of people like Dave Rubin doing all this, being all this like like pro Trump grifter, anti SJW warrior or whatever.
yeah, and then there's Ben Shapiro. I don't know how he became a member.
Yeah.
It's one of the things people forget is that Ben Shapiro used to write for Breitbart.
Mm-hmm.
Breitbart's fucking like borderline fake news, man.
Yeah.
It's a borderline. I know they're trying to clean up their act now, but wow, when Ben Shapiro was a part of Breitbart, Milo was writing for fucking Breitbart. That tells you like the caliber of writing that was coming out of Breitbart.
I
Milo
saw
and Ben
the, I,
Shapiro were colleagues.
yeah. I saw that you saw that like biggest troll ever video that Milo made where he said he's ex-gay now and he threw he threw it supposedly threw his engagement ring in the ocean and now he's like found God and he can't live in
That's
sin or
so
something.
BS. Oh yeah, I'm ex-gay. Yeah, I have the gayest haircut in the world,
Yeah.
and I wear two earrings in my ears like I'm the
Yeah.
straightest man ever. It's so much bullshit, man.
Yeah.
And I just
And
love Kyle's
I
quotes.
thought he had said someone I think Kyle Kalinske pointed this out on his video about it, but I thought that he was already married to a black guy. I thought that he was already gay married to a black guy.
That's what I thought too. Yeah, it sounds like a sad stunt. Um,
Yeah,
and usually, whenever I post a Kyle video, all I do is just quote some of Kyle's sayings. I
yeah,
forgot what I posted. I was like, "Homeboy hasn't quit dick."
yeah, yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, I just like Kyle's delivery. It's funny.
yeah, he's funny.
He just says funny ass shit. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, that's what when I think of Ben Shapiro. He used to write for Breitbart along with Milo. You think he was writing for a respectable outlet? No, the guy's a grift, man.
yeah.
He was like Breitbart is a grift magazine. It's not. Well, I can't say for now because the last time I looked at a Breitbart article, they were trying to be more factual. And I remember back in the day, if you look at a Breitbart comment section, totally full of white supremacists. It wasn't even a question. I
Wow.
usually what I would just say if someone was posting a Breitbart article, I say, "Hey, go look at the comment section of that article and tell me what you think." But now I think Breitbart removed the comment section, so
Oh, okay.
you can't do that anymore. I was like, yeah, yeah, I get it. You know, have a bunch of white supremacists in the comment section. You're trying to make yourself a legitimate news site. You're going to try to get rid of those comment sections.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. They got rid of their comment sections.
Yeah.
But yeah, the IDW, I remember defending some of those assholes.
I defended
Um,
them for a long time. I defended Dave Rubin for way too long, but then he became a self-fulfilling prophecy of he became the thing that people were criticizing him of being, I think.
yeah, I think I stopped defending him when he got destroyed by Rogan. Um, when he came on Rogan and he just got destroyed.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
about
I still
his
defended him for like a while after that, I think. I think it was only like I don't know, it probably was longer ago than this, but it was at least a year ago when I stopped defending him, but I don't think it was more than maybe a couple at the most. I'm not sure.
yeah. That's when I was like, yeah, Dave Rubin isn't very smart. I don't know how
No.
you can. He can't be. How can you put him on the intellectual dark web when he lacks that first letter in the acronym? I just
Yeah, yeah, he's
can't
not an
defend that.
intellectual.
Neither is Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
But Joe Rogan seems to be more honest about.
Yeah, he never claims to be an intellectual. He calls himself dumb like all the fucking time.
Yeah.
And he doesn't
But
ever
sometimes,
pretend to be an expert in his political analysis, even when he makes political analysis.
well, when he's talking about fighting, there's some intellectual basis there.
Yeah.
But I think mostly it just goes with the flow. Depends on who his guest is.
Hmm.
But it also seems like, I don't know, I haven't been following him as much as I used to. I know he just got Dave Chappelle on, so I want to check
Yeah.
that one out when I get the chance.
I watched that last night. It was good.
Yeah, I've
Apparently,
listened to some clips.
I saw in the description of the video too, it says that I forget when exactly, but sometime this month, Dave Chappelle is starting a podcast with the rapper Talib Kweli and some other person whose name I didn't recognize.
Oh, so Dave Chappelle's going to have his own podcast, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
Well, that ought to be interesting.
yeah, yeah. It should be interesting.
But yeah, fake news in the IDW. I guess who's the most I in the IDW, do you think?
Intellectual?
Yeah.
Uh, I guess maybe Eric Weinstein.
He is the most flexible intellect, I'd say.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's not as rigid as some of like Sam is very rigid, I
yeah.
think. Well, yeah, it's like, IDW really ain't much of a thing anymore.
Nope.
The only one who rose to high fame and is still there is Rogan.
Yeah.
I don't know if Ruben's numbers are any good anymore. I don't know
Well,
what's
I
going
think
on.
I think he piggybacked off of Jordan Peterson's fame for a long time, and there's still some of that left over. Oh yeah, actually, that reminded me. Of course, Jordan Peterson talked to Dave Rubin about his new book coming out. I didn't watch that.
He went on Ruben's show.
Yeah,
Grift Rubin.
yeah,
Uh, but it's funny because one of the hilarious things, I was just watching a random gaming YouTube channel,
mm-hmm.
and he was talking about grifters, and it's not even a political channel. And he talked about Dave Rubin. I was like, oh shit. Like, it's almost like Dave Rubin is like the most recognizable grifter on YouTube.
Yeah.
He's become a parody of himself. I think,
There's I forget where I'm. Someone said this on a video that I watched, but there really is like a whole cottage industry of making fun of Dave Rubin.
yeah, and then I've seen, because there are like these other voices in kind of the right wing side of things on YouTube and commentary that have come out saying that a lot of these right wing people are fucking grifters.
Yeah.
Like people on the right themselves saying, I know one of the ones I've heard talking about a number of these people are, Blair White.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a conservative, like trans girl that was on Dave Rubin before.
Yeah, she was talking about, I forget where I think it was from some progressive person where she was talking about uh, uh, uh like they were saying that Blair White was talking about how Steven Crowder talked to her like when they were off air, and he said, I don't actually have a problem with all this trans stuff. That's just a performance, or he said something to that effect.
Yeah, it's crazy. A lot of it's crazy. Like a lot of that side of things ends up being grifty.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think. There are no super woke YouTube personalities who are popular.
No.
So, can you think of any?
Mm, well, the Sam Cedar's pretty woke. Like
Is he? I don't. Is he popular?
Well, I see other leftists criticize him, but not as much. Like he seemed to be he seemed to be more popular when Michael Brooks was alive because the Michael Brooks came from his show.
Oh, yeah, he's kind of dropped off a bit because I don't see him at all in my algorithm.
Yeah,
Uh, I guess yeah, that's right. I guess those
there's oh
Chapo people are
also
woke.
oh yeah also Hassan Piker, who that Destiny guy, he criticizes him a lot, but I've seen that he gets carried away sometimes, and he's not woke. But Hassan Piker, who he's criticized, I've seen some of what he says, and he seems really woke with a lot of what he says.
Mm. But then, are they super popular though?
Well, I think Hassan Piker is more popular on Twitch.
Twitch.
Yeah,
Okay. I don't know. I just don't really watch Twitch.
I don't either. I only watch like Twitch streamers who also post their content on YouTube.
Okay. Um, maybe they're just not on my radar, like super woke people are
Yeah,
not
they're
on my
probably not
radar.
really on my radar either. I mean, they must be out there because there are all sorts of woke people on social media who are getting their opinions from somewhere.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I see some woke people on social media. I don't see a whole lot of them. Usually, because what I usually do is I have, the people I follow. Like I think I liked the Thaddeus Russell post that he made recently. What was he posting about? Well, yeah, Thaddeus isn't woke at all.
No, no, definitely not.
But he was posting, it was a video of the Israeli military entering a mosque and like firing flashbangs and shit in there.
Oh, okay.
And he was like, it was a post criticizing that. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's definitely fucked up.
Yeah,
But yeah, most of the people that I follow aren't woke. I just don't have a lot of woke people on my social medias.
yeah, me neither.
So
Thankfully.
I'm just not aware of I hear more about woke criticisms than I do about woke opinions.
Yeah, me too.
It's like, where are all these fucking opinions that they're criticizing?
I
Like,
I only hear about them when I see YouTubers criticize them pretty much. Yeah.
yeah, but it almost seems like I don't, where are all these fucking wokesters at? I don't, like when I go on Twitter, I don't see that many. Like I see more
I don't
hardcore
follow
right people than anything else.
that's interesting. I see more more woke people. I think it's because it might be because like I've connected with and follow a lot of people in the writing community on Twitter, and I think like you and I have talked before. I think it's kind of like an artist or a creative person thing to tend to have really lefty politics. So
Hmm.
a lot of the times when I'm looking at the profiles of writers, some of them have like their gender pronouns or Black Lives Matter in their Twitter profile descriptions or some shit like that.
Yeah, yeah. I think the only political thing I have in mind, well, it says woke centrist, which doesn't really mean much of anything.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
in
I
like
bet
this,
some people probably assume that means you're woke.
some people do. That's why when I've seen some comments on like my Thomas Sowell videos, like, oh, you shouldn't use the word woke because that's bad, blah, blah,
What?
blah, blah, blah.
Really?
I'll have to send, yeah, it's in one of my comments on one of my Thomas Sowell videos. It's
Okay.
like that commentary wasn't very woke.
That's the
I'll have to
point.
pull it up. If I find it, I'll send it to you. I was like,
That's
yeah, it's not
funny.
really meant to be. But anyway,
Yeah, that's false
you should change
advertising.
your name, or you should change your name because you're not woke.
That's
Like,
funny.
it's the whole point. It's supposed to be satirical.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it's I think in my bio, I just put a man in the middle, whatever the hell that means.
Yeah.
Like I'm
That means
not,
you're centrist.
yeah, but I don't know. Like, I don't know why I see so many right wing opinions on my Twitter
I don't know.
versus you do. I guess because you said you follow a lot of people in the writing community.
Yeah. I'm
So,
mostly on Twitter though. I mostly see like things that I actually want to see from people like you or people I actually know or people who have similar opinions or similar interests. Most of the time, I don't really see on my Twitter anyway that much divisive political content.
yeah, I kind of agree. Like, I don't say I see a lot of, or when I say I see a lot of right wing stuff, it's because I still am subscribed to some people I don't watch on YouTube much anymore.
Yeah,
um,
I'm still like I subscribe to so many people that there's so many channels that I've gotten out of the habit of watching completely, and I'm
mm,
still subscribed to their channel, but I never watch the videos.
like I'm still following Tim Pool on Twitter. The funny thing about Tim Pool is like if you go to any of his like Twitter comments, it's just like a bunch of people bagging on him.
That's
And
funny.
I think if the if there's a bunch of people bagging on you in your comments, it's probably a mark that you're not as genuine as you were before. Because you could see that in Dave Rubin's comments too. Like if you see any of his
Okay.
posts, you'll see like a shit. Because I still follow Dave Rubin, and you go look on there, and there's a shit ton of people criticizing his Twitter. I don't think they actually read their Twitter, so I think they just kind of publish shit. And so I'm guessing they'd get pretty pissed off if they found out that they got so much negative feedback from
Yeah,
their
probably.
Twitter posts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
mean, if I had that many followers, I would probably not look at the comments because I wouldn't want to get filled with the hate.
yeah. So usually I don't really unfollow people, but then again I don't use Twitter that much anyway. I'm not a huge Twitter user for the most part. I'm not a huge social media user. I do use a lot of YouTube, and I like Facebook because I get targeted groups that reflect my interests. So
Mhm.
that's the awesome thing about that. And these groups have been really helpful. Like I'm in different automotive groups, different fantasy groups, a couple different political and history groups. And it's really nice being able to have focused conversations about those
Mhm.
particular things instead of like the free for all that's Twitter, where you get just any random asshole commenting on any random ass thing.
Mhm.
Because Twitter is just way too celebrity focused.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's all about fucking followers and shit. It's like fuck that. I don't give a shit. Like I don't care about LeBron's James fucking opinions on shit that have nothing to do with basketball. Like I just don't give a shit about that. I know some people do. I don't.
Yeah.
But I don't care about Gwyneth Paltrow's vagina juice concoctions that she's making. I don't care about
Vagina
that.
scented candles.
Yeah, I don't care about it. Imagine what that would smell like. I would buy one just to see what the hell is going on with that. But my
Yeah,
guess is
like
they
a
would be way too expensive.
a vagina that smells good doesn't really have an odor. like how do you like if a vagina has a smell, it smells bad. Um, I've I've never come across a vagina that has a distinctive smell because if it smell if it's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. It just there's not it doesn't really have a distinctive smell.
Hmm. Yeah, that's why I'm interested. And like, I'm gonna have to go to YouTube and see if anyone has reviewed these
I bet
goddamn
they have.
candles. Yeah.
It did
Let
not
me
smell
write
enough
that
like
down.
vaginas.
Let me write that down in my notes here. Must search for Gwyneth Paltrow video, and I must be entertained. All right, wrote it down in my notes. Yeah, so we've gone completely off the rails here,
Yeah.
which is fine. Um, the fake news book isn't super long. It's packed full of a lot of info. So, what types of people would you recommend this book to?
Um well, I guess I would say like people who are interested in news and journalism and history and I guess learning about the history and learning about how to and people who want to learn how to recognize fake news better. And I mean, I would also especially recommend it to people who have really strong politically partisan beliefs or really strong beliefs about anything like conspiracy theories or anything. They would probably be the best type of people to read this book, even though they're probably the least likely to do so.
Well, I'll say that conspiracy theorists do read books more so than headline readers. So
I
you
don't mean
could
books in
probably,
general, I mean books like this.
yeah, yeah, it depends. If it says CIA on it, maybe that might draw them to it
Oh,
because they
yeah,
hate the deep state so much.
right,
Uh, and they need to do research on the deep state to make sure they know what the deep state is talking about.
right.
Yeah, I would say I really enjoyed the first half of the book, diving through the history of the media's role in dispersing purposeful misinformation, how governments use the media to disperse purposeful misinformation, how all of that has been used in the past and how it affects us today. You could probably write 10 more books about that. It's so it seems. But this book does a really good job in encapsulating some of the key events that have occurred regarding. I know the Gulf of Tonkin's not in here. Did she? I think she covered WMDs for Iraq. Did she?
I think so. I don't remember.
Well, yeah. So it's good just to find out, hey, you really got to pay attention and you got to make sure you're looking at different news sources. That's one of the other things she recommends.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
read different news sources covering the same story.
yeah,
Try to branch out, and if you see one side's opinion, go check out the other side's opinion.
yeah. I try to
I
do
know,
that too. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, because I know she says that Fox News, hey, you can expect them to have a conservative opinion because that's what they say they're going to have. As far as CNN, she just says, oh, they're left of center, which is mostly true. But yeah, you just gotta keep track of the different opinions. Make sure that if you see a really quirky, wacky story, make sure that there's at least a credible news source that's reporting it. I've seen a lot of times that you'll have like these really wacky stories, like some of the ones that they came up with, or she um, used as an example, where Obama What was it? It was like something super ridiculous regarding Obama.
I don't
But
remember.
yeah, but anyway, I think she does get into the whole birther stuff a little bit. But just you got to be wary because some of these sites will just copy and paste stories and then they'll change very small things about the stories.
Hmm.
So you got to just be wary and check the dates too when some of these stories are published.
Yeah.
Um, do you have any last words on this book?
Uh, just it's a pretty interesting and educational book, and I think it's worth reading.
Yeah, yeah. So the author's name is Cindy Otis. You can check her out. She's done interviews. Um, one of the things we forgot to mention, and this is also pretty important, is that and this is, we probably didn't mention this is because we're so fucking well versed on it, is she talks about recognizing bias. And she goes through the different types of biases one may have, like negativity bias,
Right.
um, what's the other one? Confirmation bias. And she uses a specific story that she read, the confirmation bias, right? Where it was the Pistorius. Do you remember that athlete, the Olympic athlete,
No.
Oscar Pistorius, that she talked about? He
No.
was the Olympic athlete who had two prosthetic legs. And when she heard the story that he had shot his girlfriend or fiance, she didn't believe it. She figured that he had to have thought it was a like a burglar or something. And she says because he was a hero of hers, she had a very strong bias to believe that there's no way he could have killed somebody that was innocent.
Right.
And that's because she's disabled and the man was a disabled Olympic athlete. So she was really, really distraught when she found out that he did this, or at least came to terms that her bias was stopping her from believing that he was capable of murder.
Right.
And these are all concepts, that we've heard in mixed martial arts for years and years about recognizing biases and things like that. If you read the book, you'll see these examples and these things that if you are any way familiar with MMA, mixed martial arts, you're gonna know some of these concepts, of course. But if you're new to it, it's a good place to check out some of the concepts around biases.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, uh, mixed mental arts reminded me on a totally different note. Uh, Reed Reed Nice Wonder released a video on his channel today, Cordial Curiosity, where he
Hmm.
was having a street epistemology conversation with a guy who believes in astrology, and
Uh,
he got like as mad as Reed can ever possibly get. Like the other
Reed
guy,
got mad.
yeah, like the other guy who helps him set up stuff, he said for like a 10 for you is like a 3 for other people. So he like started to sound dismissive, and at one point the guy was talking about your star chart and how your star chart can tell you information about your personality traits, and he said the star chart can go fuck itself. And then after the interview, not to the guy, but he was talking to his friend and he was saying, "Yeah, astrology triggers me more than anything else. It's like star bigotry."
Starving. I gotta check this out because
Yeah,
man, I've never seen him express any type of emotion.
yeah, yeah.
So,
I haven't either. Exactly. Yeah.
wow. Well, he broke his ironclad like monotone. Was he monotone when he said that, or was he kind
Yeah,
of
he
animated?
he was still pretty monotone when he said it, but like that's the most I've ever seen him lose his cool.
Yeah, astrology can go fuck itself.
Yeah. No,
Is that
Star
how he said
Chart.
it?
The chart. No, he said the chart can go fuck itself.
Oh,
That's the
the
direct
chart can
quote.
go fuck itself.
Yeah.
Can you do it and read Nice Wonder impression?
Oh, I'll try. Well, yeah, the chart can go fuck itself. He basically just said it like that in his like
Oh,
monotone.
that's not ready enough.
Oh, the ch the chart the chart can go. Well, he said it kind of like that. Like he said it more quickly and dismissively than he normally does, but in his like suave voice. The chart
Oh,
the
duh.
chart can go fuck itself.
Oh, the chart can go fuck itself.
Yeah, something like that. Need to
I
be
think
more
my
breathy.
read is more. Since I have a more tendency to be monotone. I think
Yeah,
my read
yeah,
is probably more spot on.
yeah.
But there you go. Check out Reed's stuff. It's great.
Yeah, it is. It is.
All right. What did you have in the reading in your reading log here for the week?
Hmm. Right. So, other than this, um, as you know, I've been reading the Gunslinger book one in the Dark Tower series by Stephen King because you and Parker and I are reading it tomorrow or discussing it on my channel tomorrow. And
Hmm.
yeah, I think that's a pretty good book. I read it years ago, but I really forgot most of it. And as
Yeah.
usually happens, I like it much more this time. I'm noticing some really interesting themes, and I like that he's like that Roland is a basically like genocidal killer cowboy with holy powers who has existed since biblical times and is sort of like also a wizard or paladin and has magic guns and is slaying demons and hunting the man in black. It's a really cool story.
Yeah, the first book is kind of crazy. I still don't have a feel for the world of the Dark Tower yet. It hasn't yet solidified for me, and I think it's just how hazy everything is in that world, and interesting and weird. It's like I'm thinking about Stephen King, and it seems like he has a penchant for making these offshoot or at least demented versions of Christianity as in his
Yeah,
books.
yeah, he does. I was thinking about that too. Yeah,
I was like, what's with Stephen King and his reliance on Christianity in his books? So I was thinking, yeah, there's like The Stand. Christianity takes a front and center role there. And it seems to take that type of role here because there's a lot of biblical references
yeah.
in this book, and there's like even a sermon, and there's like a crazy ass version of a sermon where people are like
Mhm.
cursing, like, oh yeah, fuck, hell yeah, amen, holy fuck, and shit like that. I was like, wow, he's really escalating it
Yeah,
here. There's like the
that's
300.
sort of those sort of themes are definitely present in Insomnia too, and some of his other books for sure as well.
Yeah, and then there's like a 300-pound woman with a demon vagina. Like, okay, all
Yeah.
right.
That
Yeah,
that
okay,
part was
Stephen.
weird. I was confused by that.
Yes, exactly. That's what I mean. A lot of the book is kind of vague like that. So I'm like, yeah, this is a very strange book. It's like, how do you travel under a mountain for like a week? Like, how does that logistically work? You know? it's type of those types of things that you kind of have to suspend belief there. And it's like it seems more like a dream than anything else.
He's got
This
magic
story.
powers.
Well, I understand he has like magic powers, like, and he likes what the main dude takes peyote,
Yeah,
like and
that was
talks
pretty
to some
interesting.
demon spirit that tells them the future. And
Yeah,
there's a
and
fucking kid from New York in
yeah,
the story. Like, what the fuck is going on in the story?
yeah, I know, right? Yeah, if I don't know if you watched
I
the
have
Dark
not.
Tower. Yeah, the Dark Tower movie with Matthew McConaughey that came out a few years ago. I didn't think it was that good, and having read the book more recently now, the book is way fucking better than the movie. They make the movie way more like they kind of tone it down and make it more young and give it a more young adult feeling, and it's center it more around the kid of Jake, even though he's not even in the novel until like a fair bit into it, and it's much more about Roland, and it has Roland as a much darker character in the book than he is in the movie. Like when he commits mass genocide on that entire town that he's in, for
Yeah,
example.
it
And
destroys it, kills a whole town with kids and
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Is it based just on the first book or like the whole series?
I don't know because I've still only read the first book, but I mean, for the most part, it seems like it's mostly based on the first book. But I haven't finished. I haven't finished reading it yet, so I'm not sure.
Okay, I
Yeah.
finished. Like, there's a giant, like, exposition bombshell at the end of the first book that
Okay.
makes you think, oh, Craig, this is kind of crazy.
Okay.
It makes everything even crazier.
Cool.
So you'll see what I mean. It's, but yeah, yeah, I think I liked it. The first time I read it, I remember not getting it that much. And then when I read it again this time, I was like, okay, I think I get it a bit more. I was following everything a bit better this time. But yeah, it's a weird book. What else did you read?
I just finished. I think it was yesterday or today. I finished reading this book by H.G. Wells called "The First Men in the Moon," which is really interesting. Of course, it was written before people went to the moon, and it was about people going to the moon and discovering hostile aliens and different regions of the planet, and then they bring some of the aliens from the moon back to earth, and they're going through the cultural differences, and it's pretty interesting. I don't like it as much as War of the Worlds and The Time Machine, but
Mm,
and The Invisible Man, but it's definitely worth reading. It's like a really interesting. It to me it was mostly like a really interesting anthropological examination of different cultural differences, but there was a fairly interesting plot with the aliens on the moon and that sort of stuff too.
okay.
Yeah.
And was that all you read this week?
Um, what else did I read? Um, hmm. I definitely read other stuff. I'm just
I'm
forgetting.
blanking out.
Yeah, I'm blanking out about it. I definitely read a lot of stuff. Sometimes I read so much that I forget some of what I read. I read a couple of poems too, because there's this compilation of short poems that popped up on a YouTube channel that I subscribe to that releases audiobooks. And oh, and also I listened to the audiobook of a book called The Bible and Shakespeare, which I
Hmm.
thought would be interesting because it would get into all the biblical influences and references in Shakespeare. But that one
Mhm.
was kind of disappointing and turned out to be boring because it was mostly just a super long list of all the biblical references in Shakespeare plays.
Well, you gave 2 stars to the builders.
Oh yeah, that was one of the poems that I read. I didn't really get it, and I thought it was boring.
Hmm.
That's why.
You read The Winds of Dune.
Yeah, yes, that one. That was interesting, but it's interesting because, um, kind of you know how I was telling you about the the first book in this series. I think it's the Heroes of Dune. Yeah, Heroes of Dune. Paul of Dune. It takes place in between book 1 and 2 of the original novels by Frank Herbert. And this book, in a similar fashion, it takes place in between book 2 and 3. But what I found interesting was that there was one thing that was similar between book 2 and this book to me, which was that I found them to be more boring than other books that I've read so far in this series. This was a pretty good book, and it's definitely worth reading, like all the other Dune books I've read, but it's the least one of the prequels or, just other books written by Brian Herbert that I've read so far. It definitely wasn't like as weird and bizarre as the original second Dune book, though.
Hmm. Yeah, some of those Dune books can get pretty bizarre.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I didn't read a whole lot. I read this book, of course, that we just covered. I also read The Gunslinger, which we're going to talk about tomorrow. Right now, I'm working on the second book in the Nevernight Chronicle trilogy,
Right. I still have
which
to read the
is,
first one of those.
well, what I'll tell you now is that the sex scenes are super graphic,
I
like
don't mind that.
ridiculously graphic. Yeah, no, I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
Um, Almost comically graphic. Like sometimes I'm laughing during these.
Oh, is it like
Uh,
it's not like Team America level, is it?
no, well, no, it's just like the guy, in the audiobook, the guy's going on like for 5 minutes about a goddamn sex scene. That's what I mean. It's
Is he
comically.
like making the noises and stuff?
No, this one doesn't make the noise. He's not the
Oh,
guy
okay.
like the guy from um, the what you call him, the first law. He makes the noises.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
that's why I love his, is because they're funny. He makes all the grunts and stuff. Uh, but
That's
no, he
funny.
doesn't make the noises. He just gets super animated during the sex scenes. Like, in fighting scenes, the narrator will get super like heightened and animated about it.
Yeah.
He does the same during the sex scenes.
Okay.
So they're like extremely animated and heightened and like overly long. I just don't need a guy. The last one I think had to be like 6 or 7 minutes long. It was ridiculous,
Wow.
uh, and it was like a lesbian scene. So, um, the first book I think has two of those scenes. This one had like three or so far, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, ridiculous sex scenes. Other than that, good stuff. The second book is it's like everything from the first book gets turned on its head, and you're like, oh shit. Like everything from the first book is almost like the opposite of what's happening now. So it's like the naive girl starts to know about her past and about who her parents really like. She has this because her parents were like murdered, and she has like this idealized version of her parents in her head that she wants to try to avenge, but she starts to talk to people who actually knew them, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, my parents are like real people, and they're not these idealized versions that I have tucked away in my head. They're like
Right.
real people with real flaws." So, which kind of second guesses her outlook of the world. So it's interesting in that way. I don't want to spoil too much because I want you to get into these because the first book is excellent. I love the first book. I gave it 5 stars. Um, I really love the what do you call it? It's just like you take the Harry Potter trope and turn it into an assassin school.
That's
It's
pretty
kind of
cool.
like the best version of Harry Potter that I've read. Where you got all these teachers teaching different arts of assassination. Um, and it's a very competitive school. And how do you compete at a school where every kid is an assassin?
Right.
So you got to think about that. But yeah, that first book is great. I think you're going to like it a lot. Second
Cool.
book, I think the expectations of the first book were so high in my view. The second book doesn't reach that, um, for me at least.
Okay.
I still like the second book, but I don't like it as much as the first book. And I'm almost done with the second book. I think I have maybe an hour left on it.
Oh, okay.
But it's still good. It's still good. I also finished The Blade itself, the second issue of the graphic novel.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
it's pretty good. I keep forgetting. I need to send you the link so that you could read those. They're pretty fun. They condense everything down, of course, but the gist of the story is there.
Okay.
But that's all I got through this week. As I did a little bit of Wheel of Time, but yeah, that's what I got through this week. I'm almost done with this God's Grave book,
What's
but
that?
it's that second book. It's the Nevernight Chronicles #2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it for me. Didn't dive too much into too many things. I was just mainly reading stuff for the shows that we're doing this weekend, which was the True or False book, which I reread again this week, and then Gunslinger, which I reread during
Right.
this week.
Right.
Yeah, but that's it, man. Next, I'm not sure what I'm going to read next, but next show. So we have a couple options. We could do either, I don't know if you would be able to do the Sword of Truth. Like I said, it's a long book.
Oh,
Have you
next
looked
week?
at it at all?
No, I haven't read it yet.
Would
Hmm.
you want to say 2 weeks for that one? Would you
I
be
could
ready in
try.
two weeks?
I could try to have it finished for next week, and we could plan to do another one as a backup,
A backup?
or just plan to plan to only cover Sword of Truth if I actually finish it.
Okay, so we can shoot for the Sword of Truth. If we cannot get to the Sword of Truth, let's see. Um, a movie. Something simple, right? So I'm gonna pick a movie,
Oh, we were
what
when we were talking about uh, what was the last movie we talked about?
Logan?
Yeah, Logan. When we were talking about Logan, we also mentioned Seven.
Oh yeah, that's right. That'd be great. All right, so here's what it'll be. If you can't get through Sword of Truth, tell me on Thursday if you don't think you're gonna finish. Because for the movies, I always watch them on Friday.
Okay,
So I'll try to listen to The Sword of Truth this week. And if you can't finish it, fine. We'll do Seven, which is an awesome thriller.
cool. All right.
What's in the box?
Yeah.
What's in the
What's in the
box?
box?
Epic, epic. But yeah, yeah, we could definitely talk about that. That'd be great.
Cool.
All right, so yeah, next week is possibly Sword of Truth, the first book, which is Wizard's First Rule. If that is not feasible, then we will be talking about the movie Seven.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, so did you have any plugs, Andrew?
Yeah. Of course, as Dusty mentioned, check out our chat on The Gunslinger, book one of the Dark Tower series by Stephen King on my channel, Mindgasms, tomorrow. And I also just put out my newest deep dive philosophy video today on my series on the Marxist Hegelian philosopher Slavoj Žižek's book on the continental German idealist philosopher Hegel, about his dialectics, and specifically relating to, in one of Plato's dialogues called Parmenides, the character of Parmenides criticizing Socrates, subscribing to Plato's theory of forms, and basically saying that it's just dialectical gymnastics. And then I've got, other movie and book chats that we've done recently. We're going to do, oh, yeah, next, I think, oh, yeah, I should double check double check with all of you guys about that, about talking about Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle next week. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
talk about that in belated honor of 420, of course. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, many other similar videos about philosophy, books, movies, etc. And check out my Patreon too at Mindgasms, and also my blog at mindgasms.theblogpress.com. We have blogs about all of the sorts of ideas we talk about, plus also novel that I'm writing, and as well as short stories and poems when I occasionally write those. And check out my social media too: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all Andrew Meintzer or Andrew Mindgasms on there. Meintzer is the spelling of my last name if you're looking for it.
All right. Well, thank you, Andrew, as usual, for teaming up with me for these chats. And yeah, next week we're going to try for those two that we mentioned. Wheel of Time is going slow. I would say a month. I think I'm just barely in chapter 12. I don't know what's taking me so long. I think it's just that I've been going to bed earlier, which has been impacting my reading time.
How far
And
are you?
chapter 12?
12? Okay.
Yeah, not too far. I think I got to get to chapter 19, right? So,
I think I'm just about there right now.
okay,
I'll
okay.
stop once I get to 19. Or well, I've been taking a little bit of a break to read those books for a book chats and read other books and whatnot anyway.
Yeah, yeah, same here. Like, I've been prioritizing the ones that we're talking about sooner than later.
Right.
So, yeah, join us next week for a possible chat about either Seven or A Wizard's First Rule, which is the first book in the Book of Truth, or Sword of Truth series, sorry.
Right.
And tomorrow, join us on Andrew's channel, and we're going to talk about The Gunslinger by Stephen King.
Yes.
Sure, that's going to be exciting. And we're going to be talking with Parker, right?
Yep.
Yep, Parker,
He's
who's
joined
always
us
fun.
on our few of our book chats before on The Stand, the other Stephen King book, and Also, The Professor in the Cage most recently, about that professor who has an MMA fight, and then also the first Dune book.
Yeah, so join us tomorrow. I'm sure it's going to be fun and exciting.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think we're done for tonight, and join us next week. Have a great evening, everybody.
All right. Adios until next time, everyone.